Let me ask you about some adoption legislation you filed concerning the adoption birth certificate that does not have to specify a female mother and a male father. What's behind that?
Well, I've got a lot of single gender or same gender couples in the district that I represent that want to provide loving families for children. And many times the children who are adopted by these single gender families want the birth certificate to adequately describe their parents. And if it doesn't, many times it creates problems with respect to one parent being able to visit a child in the hospital if they're very sick, creates problems in terms of inheritance. And we had a very compelling hearing last session. I was pleased that the chairwoman in public health gave it a hearing where these children talked about the difficulties it creates in their lives. And I'm being responsive to many of the same gender families who are providing loving homes for these adopted children, because this is really important.
What's your position on that?
Well, I'm not going to dispute Raphael. I know he's a very compassionate man, but it's just like camouflaging an issue, this bullying issue in school. It's a GLBT issue. It's a gay, lesbian, bisexual, transvestite issue. And
Transgender.
I'm sorry. Transgender and transvestite. It's you cross-dress and you're a transvestite, I guess. But anyway, I don't support that at all. I don't support it at all. I'm a conservative, and I suppose you would call yourself a liberal, or
I'd prefer not to brand.
Not to brand yourself. Okay.
I'd prefer not you branding me. How's that?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you.
I call myself a conservative, though. I am conservative, and I don't support the agenda that the gay, lesbian, transvestite. I'm sorry. What was that word?
It's gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community.
Transgender community.
GLBT.
GLBT. I don't support their agenda at all.
I will tell you that many of my constituents who are doctors and lawyers and police officers and firefighters and veterans of the military who are in committed, loving relationships want to provide loving homes for children, and do. And I think we need to take that seriously, not belittle it. And when you hear the testimony of these children about how important this legislation is to them, it really changes hearts and minds. And I hope people will go into this bill with an open heart and open mind, because this is about kids.
I said he is a very compassionate young fella, and he is.
Let me ask you about your education legislation concerning a proposed constitutional amendment dissolving the State Board of Education and creating a Texas Education Commission. What's behind that?
Well, I believe, so give me that one more time.
Well, HJR 91.
Oh, okay, I've got it. Right.
Don't worry, we'll edit this.
No worry. Well, we can start that one again.
Okay.
Go, if you
he said it's your education legislation, but the idea of dissolving the State Board of Education and creating the Texas Education Commission.
Well, the State Board of Education has been very activist with respect to our curriculum, not relying on educators and education professionals to drop the curriculum. They've taken quite a bit of liberty in amending the proposed state curriculum, and frankly, I want our children learning material that is based on science. It's based on accurate history. And I think they've taken great liberties. Many of the activist proponents of the State Board of Education were defeated in elections, and I'm pleased that reformers are now on the state board. But I am concerned about the direction that their curriculum activism took, because it seemed to rewrite some history in this state and wasn't based on sound educational principles.
Well, I was going to say exactly the same thing. By having an elected State Board of Education and going through the curriculum over the last 10 years, they've been able to change many of the textbooks that we're using in Texas today that were completely rewritten. History was actually rewritten. And there are so many other things that only one side is being taught. For example, evolution. Why would evolution be taught in schools and not creation science as well? Why don't you teach both and let kids make their minds up? And I submitted the bill a couple of years ago to allow an organization called the Institute for Creation Research in Dallas. They came from California. They spent 40 years in California, issuing master's degrees in creation science. And they thought it would be very easy here in conservative Texas by applying to the Higher Ed Coordinating Board, and the Higher Ed Coordinating Board said no. So I filed a bill to allow them to go ahead and issue master's degrees in creation science. And some of the emails I got were horrific. And they came from every college in the United States, including our alma mater. We both went to SMU, Southern Methodist University, Baylor University, a Baptist school, every formerly religious school. I was getting emails from their technology professors, from their scientists, saying there is no God. Don't send your witchcraft on me. You're ruining higher education in Texas. Well, why can't we teach both? I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I am a creationist. I don't believe that I came out of a swamp as a little tiny thing that evolved into this magnificent brain and heart that I have. I believe someone was at work somewhere doing this to me to bring me to the point where I am now.
Okay. Let me ask you about your Green Schools bill, creating a statewide standard requiring new school buildings to be environmentally friendly.
Absolutely. The Green Schools legislation comes out of let me back up again.
Sure.
The Green Schools legislation is an effort to save schools money. When we build more energy efficient buildings, it costs schools less to operate and it costs taxpayers less in terms of the taxes they need to pay to school districts. If you build high performance buildings, and any structural engineer or architect will tell you this, and you do so in a way that allows it to use less energy, it'll cost less to run the school over time. And typically on the front end, a high performance building costs 0.5 to 2% more. But because these buildings are frequently around for 25, 50, 100 years in the case of some of the schools in Dallas Independent School District, you amortize that upfront cost very quickly, and it turns out to be very, very good for the taxpayer in the long term.
Is that something you could support?
That's the second area of agreement we have, yes. I can.
Wonderful. We'll end on a note of agreement here between you two. Thank you very much for joining us.
Robert, it's a pleasure, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet.